Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're heading way up into the Himalayas to dig into the secret history of one of India's most sacred spots. And let me tell you, it's a history that might just flip everything you think you know on its head.
So picture this. High in the mountains, right on the banks of the Alaknanda River, sits the Badrinath Temple. Now, for millions, it's this absolute pillar of the Hindu faith, but its story is way more complicated than it looks. I mean, what if its most sacred idol isn't what it seems at all?
All right, so first things first, let's talk about why this place is such a big deal. For Hindus, Badrinath isn't just a holy site, it's a cornerstone of their faith. It's one of the four major pilgrimage sites in India, which are together known as the Char Dham. Yeah, and being part of the Char Dham, that's huge. It makes this temple a spiritual peak for literally millions of people. See, the belief is that if you make the pilgrimage to all four of these sites, you can achieve moksha, salvation. So that really cements Badrinath's place right at the heart of Hindu tradition. Okay, so where does the temple's modern-day fame come from? Well, it's largely credited to this one massive figure from history, the 8th century philosopher and saint Adi Shankaracharya. If you look at the sacred texts like the Shankardik Vijay, they say his arrival was a total game changer. The story goes that when he got there, the ancient shrine was basically in ruins, and its sacred idol was completely lost. And the story of how he brought it back, it's pretty dramatic. Legend has it that he was guided by a divine vision, and he actually dove into the freezing waters of a hot spring called the Naradakund. From there, he pulled out the main idol, the Sri Badranayana Vigraha, and put it back in its rightful place, breathing new life into the whole shrine. Now, this incredible revival story, it's the bedrock of faith for millions of people. But, and this is a big but, some historians and even other religious traditions have started pointing to clues in the idol itself and in the temple's architecture that hint at a very different origin story. All right, let's really get into this, because this is where the mystery gets deep. The main counterclaim is this. Badrinath wasn't originally a Hindu temple at all. It was a Buddhist monastery, a vihara. So this alternative story suggests that as Shankaracharya's influence was growing, as he was reviving Hinduism all across India, the local Buddhist monks, well, they fled to Tibet. And their sacred site, it got repurposed for Hindu worship. And it's not just a Hindu versus Buddhist thing either. Over the years, Jains have also claimed that the site was originally theirs. Heck, even within Hindu traditions, you've got local legends that say the shrine first belonged to Lord Shiva. So yeah, this place has a lot of layers. So you might be asking, what's all this controversy actually based on? Well, the evidence that people point to is centered on two main things: the temple's architecture and, most importantly, that idol we were talking about. Okay, a really key piece of this puzzle comes from a historian named Rahul Sankrityayan. He closely studied the main idol, which is carved from a black fossilized stone called a salagram, and he came to a pretty shocking conclusion. And this is what's so wild. The exact same idol can be interpreted in two totally different ways. From a Hindu perspective, you're looking at Lord Vishnu meditating in the lotus pose for the good of the world. But from a Buddhist perspective, that's Lord Buddha in the earth-touching gesture, the Bhumi Sparsha Mudra, which captures the very moment of his enlightenment. But the clues don't stop there. People who believe it was a Buddhist site point to other things too, like the temple's super brightly painted exterior. It looks a lot like a Tibetan Buddhist monastery. Then there's the history of the local rulers, many of whom were Buddhist before they converted to Hinduism. And maybe the biggest clue of all, for centuries there was this tradition of sending the first offerings from the temple all the way to the Tholing Monastery in Tibet. And that only stopped in 1962 because of the war with China. So, how do we make sense of all this? We've got these completely conflicting stories. Well, maybe the answer isn't about picking a side. Maybe it's about understanding just how fluid the religious history of this whole region really was. You see, the history of the Himalayas isn't the story of just one religion. It's a story of many faiths rising, falling, and a lot of the time just blending together over centuries. And as you can see from this timeline, Buddhism was all over these mountains long before Shankaracharya showed up in the 8th century. And this idea of religious overlap is absolutely key. It was actually pretty common for sacred sites to change hands, or for gods and ideas to kind of merge as one religion became more popular than another. We're not necessarily talking about a hostile takeover here, but more of a slow, gradual absorption of beliefs and sacred places.
So what's the bottom line?
Well, we aren't left with a simple, neat answer. What we are left with is a powerful symbol of just how complex India's spiritual tapestry really is. Instead of a straightforward story of conversion, maybe the history of Badrinath is really about absorption and reinterpretation, something that happened over many, many years. What's clear is that this spot was sacred to a lot of different people for a very, very long time. And that leaves us with one last, pretty deep question to think about. What actually makes a place sacred? Is it having a single provable origin story? Or is it the nonstop, unwavering faith of millions of people over hundreds and hundreds of years? A spiritual legacy that's bigger than any one single version of history?